This video will show you how to create a Turnitin assignment in Canvas. Please navigate to your course and click on Assignments, then click the Plus Assignment button. Name your assignment, provide directions, set the point value, assign it to a particular assignment group if you have created any, and choose to display the grade as percentage, complete incomplete, points, letter grade, GPA scale, or not graded. You can also choose to give this assignment a grade, but not include it towards the final grade. Choose External Tool from the drop-down menu next to Submission Type, then click Find. From the pop-up, choose Turnitin, then click Select. Assign the assignment to everyone. Put in a due date, an available from date, and an until date. Because students need access to Feedback Studio to see your feedback, it is best practice to set the until date for after the due date, plus the time it takes you to grade the assignment, plus the time you want your students to be able to access your feedback. In this case, I set the due date to be the end of the semester. If you differentiate this assignment, the due date in Turnitin will reflect the latest due date. For example, if one student's assignment is due September 8th and the others are due on September 7th, the due date in Turnitin will reflect September 8th for the instructor. However, it will reflect the correctly assigned due date for the students. Click Save or Save and Publish. The Turnitin assignment inbox will generate. Click on the Settings gear. As you can see, the title of the assignment was carried over from Canvas. The instructions you entered in Canvas shows at the top. If you want to copy those to the Turnitin directions, you can do that here. The point value, start date or available from date, and the due date also come over from Canvas. The feedback release date is when you want your feedback to be available for students. If you want them to get the feedback all at the same time, give yourself enough time to grade and enter a release date for after that time. If you are not concerned that some students get their feedback before others, match the release date to the due date for the assignment. In this case, I set the release date to be a week after the due date. You can enable peer mark for this assignment. Peer mark allows students to conduct peer reviews online. You can click Submit or view the optional settings. From the drop-down menu, you can choose to store the submitted papers or not. For example, if a paper was a draft and the final would be submitted in another assignment, you may not want to store the draft version to avoid an artificially high originality report score on the final paper. It might be better, in this situation, to only store the final paper to the repository. You can choose to allow submissions of any type, such as JPEGs, even though Turnitin cannot check images for plagiarism. In order to generate an originality report, Turnitin needs readable text, such as what is in Word documents, Excel files, PowerPoints, etc. Image files do not provide readable text. However, if you are a graphic arts teacher, you may want to use Feedback Studio to give feedback to students and not be concerned with an originality report. You can choose to allow late submissions. However, this applies to students who have not already submitted an assignment. You can enable E-Rater Grammar and Spelling Check. This feature gives students immediate feedback as it is generated at the same time as the originality report. That means that students get plagiarism feedback and grammar and spelling feedback within minutes of submitting their assignment. If enabled, students can then make adjustments to their paper based on this initial feedback and turn in a well put together final product. You can choose the grade level from the drop-down menu. English learners, elementary, middle school, high school, and advanced are your choices. You can choose to use either the US English Dictionary, the UK English Dictionary, or both, and which categories you would like checked. You can choose to attach a Turnitin rubric and choose that rubric from the drop-down menu, or you can create a new rubric by clicking on Launch Rubric Manager. This is the Rubric Manager. From the drop-down, you can choose to create a new rubric, or you can choose to import one. Turnitin can import rubrics in the form of Excel spreadsheets and RBC files. For this video, let's create a new rubric. Name the rubric, then enter in each criterion and scale. If you need to add a criterion, click the plus sign icon. If you need to add a scale, click the plus sign icon here. You can choose to weigh the criterion equally or not. Don't forget to set your scale. For example, I have decided that this column will be full credit and ranked as 3, and this column will be considered incomplete and ranked as 1. You can also choose to create a points-based rubric or a rubric that has no point value and is used for feedback only. When you are done, click Save. The newly created rubric will show in the drop-down menu for you to choose. You can choose which sources to compare the submitted papers and when to generate the originality reports: immediately with no resubmissions allowed for the students, immediately with up to 3 resubmissions allowed, which will generate a report immediately, and with the 4th resubmission there is a 24-hour delay to receive a new originality report, or you can have resubmissions allowed, but the reports generate on the due date. If you are using Turnitin as a teaching tool, it is a good practice to allow students to see their report, make changes as needed, and submit a better paper for you to grade. You can choose to allow students to see their originality reports. You can also choose to exclude bibliographic material, quoted material, or small sources from those reports. If you want to exclude small sources, you can set the threshold to be a certain number of words. For example, you can choose to exclude sources that are less than a 10-word match. These are discussed in more detail in the originality report video. Under Additional Settings, you can save these settings as defaults for future assignments. When you are done, click Submit. Your students are now ready to submit their assignment.